Karen yelled at a man using a ramp he'd lost his legs saving lives. Have you ever witnessed someone lash out in public, oblivious to the real story behind the person they're attacking? On a chilly evening in Toledo, Ohio, a woman named Karen Aiken stormed out of her car, her voice slicing through the quiet street like a blade. She was furious, screaming at a man in a wheelchair who was carefully navigating a community center's ramp. "You're holding everyone up," she shouted, her words dripping with venom. "Get out of the way." The man, James Carter, a 42-year-old veteran, said nothing at first, his hands steady on the wheels of his chair. But what Karen didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that James had lost both his legs saving lives in a fire that nearly claimed his own. This wasn't just a confrontation. It was a collision of ignorance and heroism that would leave everyone stunned. The scene unfolded outside the Oak Street Community Center, a place where locals gathered for support groups, food drives, and therapy sessions. James, a regular, was known for his quiet resilience. He'd been a firefighter for 15 years before a tragic warehouse blaze in 2018 left him pinned under debris, forcing doctors to amputate both legs to save his life. Since then, he'd rebuilt himself using a custom wheelchair and a ramp he'd helped fundraise to install at the center. That ramp was his lifeline, a symbol of his independence. But to Karen, it was just an inconvenience blocking her path to the parking lot she insisted on cutting through. Karen's tirade escalated as she stomped closer, her face red with rage. "This thing's an eyesore," she yelled, gesturing wildly at the ramp. "It's always in the way." She didn't stop at words. In a fit of frustration, she kicked the ramp's edge, splintering the wood and loosening a support beam. The crowd nearby, mostly locals heading into the center, gasped. James gripped his chair tighter, his jaw clenched, but he didn't shout back. Instead, he said calmly, "Ma'am, this ramp is how I get inside. It's how a lot of us do." His voice was steady, but the weight of his words hung heavy in the air. Karen froze for a moment, caught off guard, but her ego wouldn't let her back down. "Don't lecture me," she snapped, doubling down. "You don't own this place." That's when the twist came, unexpected and sharp. A young woman in nurse's scrubs, Maya, stepped out from the crowd. She'd been volunteering at the center that evening, helping with a veteran support group. Maya wasn't just any volunteer, she'd been one of the paramedics on the scene the night James was pulled from the fire. "You're yelling at a hero," she said, her voice cutting through Karen's bluster. "This man saved 6 people from a burning building. He lost his legs doing it. That ramp you just kicked? He fought for it so people like him could still have a life." The crowd murmured, some pulling out phones to record. Karen's face paled, but she wasn't ready to surrender. "I don't care who he is," she muttered, though her voice wavered. "He shouldn't be blocking the way." The confrontation reached its peak as James, still composed, wheeled himself closer to Karen. The damaged ramp creaked under his chair, a stark reminder of her reckless act. "I don't need your pity," he said, his eyes locking onto hers. "But you need to understand something. This ramp isn't just wood and nails, it's freedom for me, for others. You broke it because you're angry, but you're breaking more than just a ramp." His words weren't loud, but they hit like a thunderclap. The crowd was silent now, phones still rolling, capturing every second. Karen's bravado crumbled. She opened her mouth to argue but found no words. Maya stepped forward again, her voice firm. "You owe him an apology. You owe everyone here one." The crowd nodded, a few voices calling out, "Yeah, say sorry." Karen's eyes darted around, realizing she was the center of a storm she'd created. Then came the fall. Another onlooker, an older man named Tom who ran the center's maintenance, inspected the ramp and shook his head. "This is going to cost hundreds to fix," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "And it's on you, lady." He pointed at Karen, who was now visibly shrinking under the weight of dozens of eyes. The reality hit her. She'd not only attacked a man who'd sacrificed everything but had also damaged a vital piece of the community. Social media was already buzzing. Clips of her outburst were uploaded to X within minutes, with hashtags like Karen vs. Hero trending locally by nightfall. Comments poured in. "She thought she could bully a disabled vet. Instant karma." Another user wrote, "Hope she's ready to pay for that ramp." Karen's name was out there, her face plastered across posts. She'd been exposed and there was no hiding. The aftermath was swift and humbling. Karen tried to slink back to her car, but Tom called out, "We've got your license plate. You're not dodging this." The community center filed a vandalism report with the Toledo police, and though Karen wasn't arrested, she was slapped with a hefty fine and a court date to cover the repair costs. Ex-posts later revealed she'd tried to spin the story on a local Facebook group, claiming she was just frustrated and didn't mean to cause harm. The backlash was brutal. Frustrated? You kicked a disabled man's ramp, one commenter wrote. Own up to it. Karen's attempt at damage control only dug her deeper, and her silence online after that spoke volumes. The ramp was repaired within days, thanks to a crowdfunding campaign James' friends launched, raising triple the needed amount. The extra funds went to accessibility upgrades at the center, turning Karen's destruction into a community triumph. James, meanwhile, didn't dwell on the incident. At the next support group meeting, he spoke to the group about resilience. Anger like that comes from a small place, he said. I've faced worse than a broken ramp. We all have. You just keep moving forward. Maya, who'd become a close friend since the fire, shared his story on X, where it garnered thousands of likes. This is who James is, she wrote. He doesn't back down, not from fire, not from hate. Let's lift him up. The community did just that, with local businesses offering to sponsor more accessibility projects in his honor. The story of Karen's outburst became a lesson in humility, a reminder that rage can blind us to the humanity in others. What would you have done in that crowd? Would you have stepped in like Maya, called out Karen's behavior, or stayed silent? James' story shows us that heroism isn't just about saving lives in a fire, it's about holding steady in the face of cruelty. Share your thoughts. Where do you draw the line between standing up and letting karma do its work?